Hello everybody. It's been a little bit, but it's me, Trigger Happy Gamer, and I am obviously very excited for October, unsurprisingly, as I always am. It has been a while. I've had a full-time job and I've been really busy. So today we are actually going to be recreating a really old Creepypasta character made in 2013, as I did last year, I believe, with My Holy Hell dramatic reading. I am going to do that with my very first written Creepypasta, Unknown. And it was written on March 10th of 2014. The character and the riff sheet that I am putting up on screen now was actually made in 2013. I just hadn't written anything yet. So we're going to start with our dramatic reading. It, in all caps, was a dark and dreary evening. A bully in a red jacket and blue jeans named Mike walked a dark road. He turned a corner and heard an ear-splitting screech. He turned to the corner to see a girl in a brown turtleneck, belt jeans, kneeling on the sidewalk. Mike's stomach gave a lurch as he saw blood surrounding her, where she was. Deciding to see how she was, he ran up to her. The stranger turned her head, and Mike noticed that she was wearing a white mask with huge holes where the eyes were and an expressionless mouth. "Are you alright?" Mike managed to get out, and the girl nodded. "Good, I'm Mike. Can you tell me who you are?" Girl merely said, "I am Unknown." Her voice was high and disorientated, with a weird scratching and clicking noise in between each word. Will you take off your mask, so?" "There is danger behind the mask," the girl said before Mike could finish. But he held up his hand, but the girl pushed his hand away where he noticed that she was wearing gloves. "There is danger behind the mask," she repeated through it. Mike thought better of it and turned to walk away, only turning back to see the girl was gone. The next week of Mike's life was very strange. Wherever he went, he saw the girl in his computer. On every page, "I can't sleep. All I see that girl, and I want to take off her mask to see what's behind it," he wrote in a letter to his friend. The last night of the week, just before he fell asleep, he saw her in his room. All tiredness left him, and he sat bolt upright. There is danger behind the mask, and with a faint crack, she disappeared. Mike was sick of it. He decided to look for her. He went to the same place he met her the first time. Well, she was standing in the light of a light pole, her back facing him. He rushed up to her and took her mask off. The sight made him wish he didn't. She turned, her mouth dripping with a weird green goo. The place where her eyes were supposed to be, there was nothing, and she had a snake-like tongue and fangs. She removed her glove to see 10-inch claws. "Danger. Mask," was all she said before she lunged, ripping his limbs off. "You are lucky I am not ravenous," Unknown said, as Mike laid, one eye slashed out, arms and legs disappearing, blood smeared. The girl's mouth as she licked her lips with her snake-like tongue. Then she let out a scream that echoed, and then she disappeared. The paramedics saved him just in time to live a little while longer, the strange venom burning his insides. The last night he could live, someone appeared. "I told you there is danger behind the mask," was what the mysterious person said as it disappeared. The next morning, surrounded by his family, Mike said goodbye, and his last words were, "There is danger behind the mask." And the last thing is the description. It is about Unknown. Okay, so obviously it is something written by a 13, 14-year-old. And it's a little embarrassing to be able to laugh at all of my old work, but I think that's kind of important when you are a creator, especially when you've been creating for so long like I have. I've been drawing and writing for so long. I think it's important to be able to look back and see all of my past failures. Unknown is, I think, my second Creepypasta character. My first was X, and she is no longer in the horror genre because she just does not make sense implemented into it. So we won't see anything about her here. However, she is one of my first masked characters, and I really do like the idea of her wearing a mask. However, we're going to start with our protagonist, Mike, who I have recreated into Oliver Jenkins. I think every story needs a final girl or final guy, so obviously Oliver is going to survive his encounter with Unknown. I decided, instead of doing it like people obsessing over the mask, if you see Unknown even with her mask on, or presumed her, because there is no real way to tell, but we will be referring to Unknown as her. But if you see her even with her mask on, she will start to stalk you very slowly, and the longer you are around with her, she is going to get faster and more ravenous and more desperate to get to you. This Mike has been changed into Oliver Jenkins, as I stated before. He is a nighttime security guard because the name Mike was probably inspired by Five Nights at Freddy's, so I thought we would continue this trend, and I thought it was funny. So he's a nighttime security guard in his 20s, going home from work when he spots this creature. And he is just kind of trying to desperately escape, and he doesn't really have anybody he can turn to about it because he's very antisocial. So his whole thing is trying to figure this out by himself while this creature is stalking him. Unknown, I tried to kind of stick to her original color palette of her original reference. She was kind of a fashion nightmare, and when I updated it, I decided to mute all of her colors to make it so that she is more camouflaged into like a wood kind of thing. Obviously, she's extremely dirty and gross, because if she wasn't, there would be questions on where she gets bath. When I was drawing her with her hair, I actually decided to make it look really greasy and try to stick to the original shape, not the updated ref from later on, but the original. That made a lot more sense, and obviously I think it worked. She is a very weird looking person wearing a mask at first glance, which is what I wanted. The concept is kind of like SCP-99, but I wrote the original story before I knew what SCPs were. So, 14-year-old me at least had the idea myself. It ended up looking interesting. So with Unknown, the idea was, for the updated, instead of doing ridiculous 10-inch claws, I don't know why I had to specify those. Those would break super easily, but I just did regular claws, so her hands come out into sharp points. But I made her arms just slightly longer than a person. So when you have a human being, our arms go about mid-thigh. Her arms go all the way down to her knees. And it's just a slight distortion of length of arms that makes her seem really weird, which was what I was going for. The original design, I have some nostalgia over because I drew her so much in the time frame of a few years, along with some other old Creepypasta characters that I might revamp, like My Holy Hell, who I've already revamped. You can click the I if you want to hear that awful story and see what I've created. But yeah, the idea of this new story is Oliver somehow survives and Unknown lives to stalk another day, more similar to a slasher than a creepypasta character, if I'm being honest, because I tend to enjoy horror movies now much more than I do the badly written online stuff that it was so popular back in the day. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you really liked the new design. Comment down below if you want to see me do this with more creepypasta characters that I had back in the day. I am more than happy to do it because it's funny. So just let me know. So just tell me what you think of the new designs. Tell me if you want to see more of this. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.